Welcome to the Performance Code, the official podcast of PCodeNation.com and the Performance Code community. Tune in each week as top performers and fitness experts share their tactics and strategies to get you on the fast track to achieving maximum results. And now your host, Justin Schollard.
Hey, what is going on, everybody? This is Justin Schollard, episode number 6 of the Performance Code podcast. I really want to thank you guys for tuning in each and every week. I know you have a lot of options out there, and I'm truly grateful to have you listening to my show. So today, 6 simple steps to build your own workout routine. So important that we understand what it takes to develop our own progressive overload, super compensation, strength and conditioning program, right? We've talked in the past about not winging it. We want to make sure that we have a plan, right? The last thing you want to do is repeat the same 4 to 6 workouts over and over and over again that you're comfortable with, because the reality is our bodies are built to adapt. And if we are not giving it a reason to adapt, then it's not going to. And the fact is, if you're doing the same workouts over and over again, chances are your body is already adapted to that, right? It gets that already. So even though it's making you break a sweat, it's getting your muscles pumped up, you're not going to build any more muscle. You're not going to lose any extra weight because your body's got it figured out. So this is why it's so important to write it out, have it planned, and actually create a progressive overload program. So today, super simple. We're going to go over 6 quick steps to build your own workout routine. And as an added bonus, I went ahead and created a webinar for you guys. So if you head over to pcodenation.com/DIY, as in do it yourself, but it's just the DIY. So pcodenation.com/DIY. I have an awesome webinar on how to build your own program. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into it, guys. So step 1, pick your weekly workout schedule. So in other words, don't just wait for the day to come by and decide, all right, today's a good day, or it's not a good day and I'm not going to work out, or maybe I'll get to it tomorrow, or I'll wait until see how I feel. Bullshit. I'm calling bullshit right now. That is 100% guaranteed way for you to never stick with it. You got to make this appointment with yourself non-negotiable. It's like, anything else we do, right? If you're taking meetings, if you're making appointments, you can't just wing it, right? These have to be concrete in your schedule, make it happen. Start slow, start simple. 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's fine for now. After you've nailed the 3-day-a-week routine for 4, 6, 8 weeks, fine, step it up to 4. Most importantly, though, it's consistency, right? Like, you got to be consistent with this. You can't have a good week sometimes and then fall off for a couple weeks. So that's why making the schedule is so important, and sticking to it even more important. Okay, so number 2, split your days into different muscle groups. So for example, if on Monday I want to do a chest and shoulders and tricep workout, great. So that means Wednesday I might do legs and abs. And then Friday I got my back and bicep workout. So you see where this is going, right? So basically it's called a split routine, right? So you're working the same muscle groups that kind of have similar actions as one another. So if I'm doing a bench press, what's similar to the bench press? An overhead press, which is my shoulders, right? So if I do kind of all my pushing in one workout, then I'm really going to maximize that fatigue, that progressive overload. I'm going to get more volume with these pushing muscles, which is just going to translate into more muscle growth and more adaptational response. So that's how I want you guys to do it. You split your days into different muscle groups once you've nailed down your actual schedule. So I'm using the 3-day-a-week schedule as an example. I personally work out 4 or 5 times a week. 5 is a good week. 4 is probably, is it average maybe? And 3 is like bad, right? That's just where life's coming at me 100 miles an hour. And I'm just doing what I can to maintain. But I always try for 5. And then I split it up. So I'm always having a couple days rest before the emphasis of my workout goes back to any one particular muscle group. Okay, so after you've picked your schedule and after you've split your days into different muscle groups, you're going to focus on heavy compound lifts first, i.e., back squats, front squats, deadlifts, shoulder press, bench press, pull-ups. Those are heavy compound lifts that recruit the most amount of muscle fiber. So you want to start your workout with heavy compound lifts first. So for example, if it's a back day, maybe I'm going to do deadlifts to start. Maybe I'm going to do like a 5x5 of heavy deadlifts to start. And that's going to get my whole body warmed up and my whole body charging, testosterone flowing, growth hormone pumping, blood surging. My central nervous system is alive and awake. So after I've done my heavy deadlifts, then I might go into pull-ups, right? I might do 4 or 5 sets of pull-ups to failure. Then I might go into some single arm rows or some seated cable rows, 3 or 4 sets of those. And then I'm going to go into my isolation lifts, bicep curls, right? For example, in this instance, all kind of working the same muscle group, but going from most amount of muscles and joints recruited to medium amount of muscles and joints recruited to the fewest amount of joints and muscles recruited. For example, heavy compound deadlifts, then pull-ups, rows, and then isolation like bicep curls, right? So then after that, of course, you want to have some conditioning, right? You can't be all show and no go. If you want to look like an athlete, you got to train like one. So after you've done your heavy compound, then your isolations, then you got to do some conditioning, right? So this is where, if you were using a 3-day-a-week program, for example, let's just use this back day as an analogy, right? So if I'm going to do my deadlifts and then my pull-ups and my rows and then my bicep curls, my conditioning might look something like, 20 kettlebell swings, 15 burpees, and 10 wall balls. So what I'm doing there is I'm still using my back for the kettlebell swings, but I'm also recruiting some hip. And for my burpees, I'm also using my shoulders with the wall balls as well. I'm using a little shoulder muscle. So that way I'm not going an entire week without touching my pushing muscles, which is the opposing muscle groups to my back. So what I mean by that is you want to train your opposing muscle groups in your conditioning workouts on the days you put the emphasis on a certain group. So if I'm doing a back workout, I want to train my back nice and hard, 30, 40 minutes. And then when I do my conditioning workout, I definitely want to include some sort of dip, burpee, push up, overhead press, just to touch that opposing muscle group. So I'm not waiting an entire week to train each muscle group. Each muscle group is getting trained a couple times a week. It's just the emphasis is greater on the days that we've assigned for it. Okay. And like I said, guys, I have a whole webinar put together about this exactly. So if that was a little confusing, which I could see how it could be, remember pcodenation.com/DIY, and I'll break all this down for you. And it's about a 25-minute webinar, and it'll lay it all out in picture form to give you a better idea. Okay. So then number 4, we want to stick with the same routine for about 3 weeks, adding roughly 3 to 5% more weight each progressive week. And then on week 4, we want to change everything up. Okay. So what I mean by that is, let's just say on Monday is chest, shoulders, and triceps. Wednesday is legs. Friday is back, biceps, right? Very basic example here. But what I want to do is I want to stick with the same exercises. So let's just say it's bench press, shoulder press, and then some tricep pushdowns. Great. Let's just stick with those 3 exercises on that for those muscle groups for 3 weeks straight. The difference is you're going to be adding 3 to 5% more weight. And this is where the progressive overload theory comes into play, because you have to train a muscle group long enough to create an adaptational response. In other words, if I only touch it once and then change to something else, you might have a good workout, but you're not really giving your body the signal to adapt to it yet, right? You're not creating a long enough sustained exposure to it to adapt. So I want to train this. I want to do the same workouts basically for 3 weeks, just adding more weight, really letting my body adapt and build and build and build. And then after about 3 weeks of that, I'm going to change it all up, because after 3 weeks, your body's going to really start to understand what you're doing now. And we want to avoid a plateau. So this is a good time to just change everything up. And which brings us to number 5. which is included deload week every 4th week. And now this isn't an exact science. Maybe a deload week is every 5th week for you. But for me, what I find and what I use at the academy at P Code Nation is I do it on a 3-week progressive overload cycle. And then the 4th week is the deload week. And the deload week is where we just change everything up, right? It's basically, we're getting away from heavy weights. I like the idea of incorporating more CrossFit type workouts for this week, which are just generally full body, short, intense, just blasting it. And that helps keep our conditioning levels up and also keep it fresh and our bodies adapting, and just a nice refreshing change for 3 weeks of heavy lifting with the same routine. It's good to just get in there, do a full body workout, thrusters, kettlebell swings, burpees, whatever it is. Train like an athlete, get some battle ropes out, push a sled, do some sprints on a treadmill, like just change everything. And that's how your body's going to just really blast into a new level, a new plateau of adaptational response. So super important that you include a deload week every 3rd or 4th week in there. Okay, and then guys, last but not least, number 6, you got to spend at least 5 to 10 minutes mobilizing after every workout. This is the one that I see so many people skip, and it's like, no, don't do that. You've just trained your body. Exercise is stress. Now, because of that stress, we take 1 step back and 2 steps forward. It's in the long run, it's very beneficial and healthy. Obviously, we know that. The problem is when you train at high intensity, heavy weights, your muscles get tighter. And what happens when they get tighter is you start to throw your joints out of alignment. Now we're not moving as fluidly as we can, and that creates compensation. Compensation leads to injury. This is a whole trickle down domino effect where if we can mobilize the muscle group that we just trained, then we're going to be much better off in the long run to keep those muscles long and strong and limber, and avoiding the compensation and potential injury that could come down the line if we ignore mobilization, right? So it's super important, at least mobilize the muscle group that you just trained. So if I just train my legs, at least get in there, spend 5 minutes minimum, really 10. Pigeon stretch, hamstring stretch, couch stretch, get the foam roller out, roll your glutes, roll your quads, roll your hamstrings, like loosen up, right? You're going to feel so much better. It's going to help you recover from the workout. It's just a much better approach, and it's best practices, quite frankly. All right, guys, so that was it. That is your 6 simple steps to building your own workout routine. To recap, 1, pick your weekly workout schedule. 2, split your workout days into different muscle groups. 3, start with heavy compound lifts, then move into isolation, and then move into conditioning. On those conditioning workouts, FYI, we want to hit the opposing muscle groups that we just trained as well, so that way we're getting stimulus to each muscle group twice a week. 4, stick with the same routine for 3 weeks, adding 3 to 5% more weight each week, then change it up. 5, include a deload week every 4th week. So after 3 weeks of training, that 4th or 5th week, it could even be, is a deload week. And then last but not least, 6, spend 5 to 10 minutes mobilizing after every workout. All right, that is the recipe for success, guys. I promise if you do that, you're going to be ahead of the game. You're going to see some serious results. Take it a step further. Go to pcodenation.com/DIY. Watch that webinar. Learn from me. I've been doing this a long time. This shit just works. Okay, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for next week for another great episode of The Performance Code.
Thanks so much for listening to The Performance Code, the official podcast of pcodenation.com, with your host, Justin Schollard, online at pcodenation.com. We'll catch you next time.